on the start of a new long build I'm going to do on a Tamiya Thunder Dragon. Fancied one of these for a long time. It was at a good price without ESC, which suits me, so I got hold of one. I've had it a month or so waiting to start the build, so I'm not doing an unboxing, it's just going to be straight into the build. Now we start with part one, which is making two diffs, but I'm only going to do one. The way I do this, they show drop the, well, they just show it assembled, but I put a little bit of grease on here, then I put the washer, then a little bit more, and drop that in. Then put the 3 bevel gears on. Then take the case, the squirt of grease round inside, I hope you can see that, and drop the bevel section on, pushing down, and then take the other side. Actually, I call them, these are the should be crown wheels, aren't they? There's a car. Put on the other shim. Drop that in, a bit of grease, and it should pop together. So why doesn't this want to pop together? That's weird. Why don't you want to go? Try lining it up. That's in place, so it should just go on. Ah, there you go. That was a very tight fit. Now just put the 3 screws in. And that's one of the diffs finished, but our class is as stage 2 done. Now on to section 3. We start off with this little shaft, and you've got to put an E-clip on, so we'll fit that. There we go. And it says 1150 bearing, Some say you don't have to use a bearing because it doesn't spin, but as the bearings are usually a better fit, I'd rather use those. Well, that's my opinion, because I know there's no play there at all. Then we've got to take the cases. Let's get the cases right. This is A2, and we've got to put a little 850 in. Of course, we're upgraded that as well. And one down here, an 1150. A little 850 in there, and 1150 down there. Then it says grease up and fit this one, so we'll do that. And drop that through like so, and then it says this one grease and just puts the other side like that, so we'll just put the grease on. Get that the right way round. And that completes stage 3. Now section 4 is to put the two halves of the gearbox together. Like so. Then you've got a small nut that goes in this top hole, like that, followed by a screw from the other side. And then the other screw seems to be down here. You see that? And this one has a flange nut. And just tweak these up. Go tight, but not too tight. Then we got this part which is B8, and that fits on the end. B8 is not a hard plastic, so don't go mad winding this in, it's not needed. Now that completes section 4. Now section 5 is propeller joints. You've got to make 2, but we're only going to make 1. Start off with a shaft and another E clip. Fills in, and then what you do is a little bit of grease on the end with the D shape, and we slip on E1, which is this plastic piece, then the thrust washer. So these are located in the bearing bag. See, there's another one in there. We put that on, then the gear. Like so. Then a bearing on the end, a little 850, then turn it around and you drop on a 1050 and then this cup, and it clicks to a point. Don't go too far. Did you? You wouldn't have heard it, there was a little click. Showing that's in place, and you should end up with two of those. See that? So I'm going to make the other one off camera, and then I'll show you how it fits in. Now, taking one of the propeller joints, I'm going to put a bit of grease on now, so it's easier. They show it in the other case, the other side, but I'm going to drop it in here. And that's how it needs to go. As you can see, push towards the gear is the two washers and the bearings the other side. Now you need to put on the other bevel gear, which I'm going to put a little bit on, and that slides onto the D-shaped shaft. Like that, if you can see. Then a bit of grease around it, because we now put another one of those thrust washers, another spacer, and another one of those E1 plastic parts. That just pushes on, and then it is all held by this cover. What surprises me is that they never put a bearing or something inside. Can you see? Interesting. But you place the cover over. It should fit like that. We'll do a test. It turns nicely. And then just 3 screws to hold the cover on. I think I got them in the right place. Is it 3? Oh, actually it's 4 screws. Ignore me for a second on that one. The only downside is that they use these little screws, and my screwdriver is not exactly the best fit. I used to have a really good one, but I don't know what I've done with it. It used to fit Tamiya screws spot on. There we go. Check that it turns nicely. Don't worry, it's sounding a bit rough. What that is the diff is not centered yet. It hasn't got its drive cups. But that completes stage 6. Now section 7. It's fitting the other gear. There's a bearing to put on the inside here, so I'll just push that in and done with it. Like so. Then it's a case of just putting this in, because it's not like the other one, because being the front one, it just has a different gear on it. So I'm just putting those on, and again make sure it, I'll show you close up, I don't know if you can see that there's certain grooves, and you've got to get it just so. And if it pops together easily, it's in the right place. And again, the cover is held on with 4 of these small screws. There we go. And that's what it looks like from the inside. Well, that completes stage 7. Now part 8, we start with this little tube. That's what it's showing. And if I use the I've got the wrong side. This side starts. This part starts with the other side. So let's quickly prep it. My faux pas. Right, that looks better. Now we start with the tube this end. See if I can zoom in a bit. Let's go in a bit. Just got to focus on camera better. Then you've got to put a bearing in the case, grease the diff, and plop that in like so. Then drop a bearing on the tube, and then grease up this one, the gear with the bevel. That will plop onto the bearing because it lines up with the diff, as you can guess. Then we'll push a bearing in. That's the other one, and we'll add some more grease. And that completes part 8. Now section 9 is putting the two halves of the case together. Put it carefully and try and line up the shaft. There you go. It should fall into place. Then holding it this way, there's 2 self tappers at this end. 1, 2, so we'll just start them off. Actually, you might as well go all the way, then it'll hold everything solid. Now according to what I can see is the bolt goes through the bottom, that one there, and more flange nuts, and then the other one goes through the top, there. Nip them up the same way, just a little tweak, and that completes the assembly of the front diff. Now part 10 is the motor and motor mount, and this is, I love this bit. Look at that, a nice piece of aluminium, or I think it's cast because it doesn't look machined to me. That's so nice. And then we've got to do the motor. Now this is where it gets a bit tricky. First of all, put on the dust cover and line it up with the holes. Then fit the motor mount, and it says use that screw hole there, and so it'll be that one there. So we'll put one in and do that up. On camera, I'm going to zoom out a bit because that's it, a bit better. And then we'll put the other one down here. Now comes the tricky bit, in my opinion, is the gear has to be set. If you look here, 14.5 millimeters from the inside of the base. So I'm lucky I've got calipers preset, and we'll put the gear on. I'm going to do the screw up, then loosen it. Well, I want it just touching. And then, if I can get this at the right angle, I should be able to take the calipers and have a look. Actually, that's not far off. Nearly got it first go. Try again. I think that's as near as, and we'll tighten the screw off. And that's the prepared motor mount. And like I said, I like it when they put a nice part in like that in one of their kits. Now stage 11 is fitting the motor, and here's the one. You've got two large open holes, can you see them? Slide in these tubes first. They will barely stay in place, but if they fall out you can soon put them back in. Take a screw, which these ones are 20 millimeters, put a washer on, slide it through the tube, and just before we start putting this into place, a little bit of extra grease never hurts. And it says orientate this way, so the fact is it should go in and secure like so. funny, that just doesn't feel right. I had to spin the gear a bit because that wasn't going on. So just go in until it touches, then you can just drop the tube back in. As I predicted, it would fall out somehow. Find the screw which you have now stuck to the motor magnet. Put that on. And tighten them up. That's what it should look like at the end. The two screws with the washers are there. But that completes stage 11. Now we're starting bag B, and it's the rear axles onto the lower wishbones. So we start with a shaft, a bearing into the cup, and pull and push. Yeah, it must have gone. Then you take the wishbone this way round, use a BB-8 pin, slide that through the bottom. Very nice snug fit, and wind it up. And then, actually I put the wrong one where I put the thing on, didn't I? Oh well, we can do it this way. Bearing, that's the next one in. And then we do the other side the other way round. Good thing is it does seem to have universal parts for a lot of this. And that completes that. Now we're on to stage 13. First of all, put in these little O-rings. Use a drive shaft or whatever you need to push them in. They recommend a bit of grease, but I never usually bother, I just force them in. That's one. And then the other side. Nope, that one doesn't want to go. See, it comes under the what it does with the drive shafts. I'll just talk something on the side, because in a minute we'll be putting them together. And they recommend putting a bit of grease on the end of the dog bones. I'm like a lot of people, we don't, because it just promotes sort of well, it picks up muck and it turns it into like a grinding paste. The last thing you really want. Sorry about the squeaking noise, that's the printers making a bit of noise on these filament spool. But anyhow, we'll put the cups in. But I'm not talking about the grease on what I've just put on, it's the grease in the outer and the dog bones. Make sure I get that right. Then we take the rear upper arm that goes between, and more of these little short pins. These are better designed because you screw into the plastic and it just runs free. On Tamiya kits where they have it sort of you screw into the wishbone, that gives them a tendency to at times unwind themselves more than normal. And on some cars it can be a little bit of a pain. But where these are going into hard plastic, they go in good and tight and run very freely. And that is the quite simple part 13 done. Now we're going to start the not so easy part 14. First of all, I'm going to fit the lower wishbones with the pin. It goes in the lower hole. You've got to try and work it in all the way through and do it up. That's very nice, that's held. Now the top one is when the fun starts. I don't mind them, but a lot of people have a pet hate for these. And that's E-clips, the little ones. So first we're going to drop in the dog bone, get that to line up, and then the pin goes from the blue arm into the black arm. And then we take one of the little E-clips and balance it on the shaft, and this is when you need smaller needle nose pliers. And there you go, clips on as easy as that. And we check the movement, and that seems fine. And then we just do the other side the same. Bottom pin first. It's a bit, that's it, once you get through the first two parts, it goes quite easy. There we go. Drive shaft in. There we go. Had my hands all in the way again, but it's harder this side. Pin. Get it lined up. Push it through. Little E-clip. Don't think this side's going to be as easy. Just about hold the E-clip. Did that go? I don't think that did. There we go. And that completes both sides. Now part 15 is fitting the rear bumper and the shock tower, as I'm going to call it. This is held on with 3 self-tapping screws, the shock mount. There we go, the top one's in. Then we'll put one of the side ones in here, and the other one, and they just have to be wound down until they're touching, because again you're screwing into hard plastic but it's soft, the mount. It's funny how they use the right sort of plastics on this in the right place, you know, soft plastic here, where it seems so much on later Tamiyas they use hard plastics in these places. Now we've got the rear bumper. Let's try and work out how this goes together. It says like that and like so. Yeah, I think I've got it. Same type of screw. Just wind that up. Don't go mad. Again, soft plastic. And then this goes in the middle. Let's get this closer. Of there. And the screw goes through all the way. And we'll put a flange on it. Yeah. And then one all the way through the bottom. Bring it up, might be able to see that better. And line that on. Don't go mad because again it's soft plastic. And that's the rear bumper. I think it's quite cool. And that completes part 15.